everyone, and welcome back to the Real Positive Girl podcast. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I hope that it has been a good day if your day has already started. And if it's just getting off the ground, well, I hope this is a good addition to your day. I hope that it's an absolutely fantastic day. Positive things are going to happen. You know, you're going to get crap done, and even if you are at a point in your day where everything is sucking right now and you're feeling really negative about it, I just encourage you to just believe that it's going to get better, even if I say this all the time, even if you only spend about 5 minutes where everything is as great as it can be, where you can take deep breaths, where you can just believe the world is an okay place to be, but today might be a hard day. Even if you only get 5 of those minutes today, you know, that just lets you know that, okay, well, you can increase more of those as the day goes on for the rest of the day, or hopefully tomorrow will just be a better day. But anyway, so happy Wednesday to you guys. Just a reminder that this week we were talking about your human rights and the rights that we have, the rights that we all have. Just a reminder, so in case we have people in our lives, toxic people that are manipulating us, remember that we have the right to so many things without asking permission, because we're all humans and we all have that right. So for today, we are talking about how you have the right to not be responsible for others' behaviors, actions, feelings, or problems. This is a tough one for me. Absolutely. Super tough. Super tough. I am constantly wanting to be responsible for other people's feelings. It's such an unhealthy habit. And it's part of that perfectionism, you know, that drive, that people pleaser in me that wants to be responsible for other people's feelings so that I can just carry it all on my shoulders and just make everyone happy. You know, contribute to that happiness, contribute to that positivity in their life, and make sure that I am just doing as much work as I can for them so they don't have to do as much for themselves. Because I think one of the main reasons for this is that I find that a lot of people in my life, not a lot, but a good portion of people, they just don't want to do the work themselves. And I'm over here like trying to make sure that I am pleasing every single person in my life and being like, hey, I can do that for you. And they're like, okay. And what has actually happened though is there are several people in my life who will just start taking that for granted, and maybe that's happening to you too, and so they're expecting it. And now, recently, in the last few years, I'm like trying to step back from that, let that go, be like, no, that's yours now. It's always been yours. I just kind of like got in the way and took it over. Then it's really hard for them to get back to that, because they're like, oh my gosh, this person just kind of took over that in my life recently, and how am I supposed to figure that out on my own? I don't want to. Sometimes people will try to manipulate you into thinking that you still need to take up that role for them. It's absolutely not true. But it's really hard. It's hard just for the person that does it, like me. It's such an unhealthy habit, and I know that it's an unhealthy habit, and I've actually, stepped away from that so much lately, but sometimes, you see people struggling, super unhappy. You just want to run around and do everything you can to just make them happy and make their life like the best it could be. But just so you know, inside their mind, like when they're really thinking about their life, maybe those couple of things did help, but they're still unhappy, because they didn't create any of that happiness themselves, because happiness truly is an inside job. So just remember that. But whether it's your partner, your child, your boss at work, your friend, your family member, that rando on the street, remember, you are not responsible for them. Now, technically, you are responsible for your child to an extent. I used to get so wrapped up in the idea that it was my responsibility to make my child happy all the time. But once I realized that this didn't allow her to grow and learn and figure out how to do that herself, I just let it go. And I just try to play that assist, play that backseat role. Plus, coddling is a no-no, and I believe that for children, for adults, for anyone. You don't want to coddle anyone, because it prevents them from being able to learn and to grow in their lives, And now you are responsible to teach your children how to behave correctly. Yes, that is your responsibility. If you didn't know that, now you know. It's your responsibility to teach them how to behave correctly, problem solve, move through their emotions in a healthy way. But there comes a time when you've done all that you can do You have to step back and see how they fare. And this is a topic that I will talk about more in the near future, but it is so important that you just let them figure out how to do that for themselves. That's one of the ways that kids grow and learn. They have to be able to figure out how to make themselves happy from inside their own mind and be able to project that out into real life. And we only have one child, and I had such a traumatic childhood growing up that it was always one of those super, super, super important things that my child was happy, that my child has a great life, doesn't have to deal with any problems, minimally, because I know life isn't perfect, and just be able to have her have so much joy and positivity in her life all the time, which she does. But like I said, it's not my responsibility to make her happy. I just need to be out here teaching her how to be happy, does it, when she was younger, it's like, oh, well, maybe you like this toy. Maybe that'll make you happy. But then there was a point where I was buying toys like all the time, thinking like that's exactly what would create the happiness inside her, when really that wasn't creating happiness. It's creating like confusion and feeling overstimulated, and it's just too much. So, I had to pull it back and be like, okay, well, we can have conversations on like, what dolls do you really like, or what games do you want to play, or what kind of things are your favorite things to do outside, and just, help them grow and learn and figure out how they can find that happiness inside themselves and figure out how to problem solve by themselves, figure out just how to deal with their emotions. You want to be on the assist and not necessarily like in the driver's seat, because if you're always in the driver's seat and then they go and they graduate from high school and they're on their way to college and you're like, okay, I love you, I miss you, you're going to be great. And they're like, yeah, it's going to be great because everything's been great. But then they go and they crash and burn because they didn't have the opportunity to practice learning those skills as an adolescent, as a child, because you were always doing everything for them. So anyway, let's move back, because I think I have talked about that a little more than necessary. Like I said, we will do an episode on that in the future. Okay, so back on track, reading my notes. So this was also a recent problem with my husband. Up until last year, I would feel like it was my responsibility to make sure that I arranged everything I could to make sure he was happy, but that wasn't my job. And there came many times where he would point that out to me, this is not your job, I just need to figure out how I can be happy, but it really hurt me. And I felt like actual physical pain when he wasn't happy, and I was trying to, run around and do all the things I could to make him happy, but it was true. It was not my job, and I needed to stop trying to take on that job because I was kind of getting in his way of him trying to figure out what could make him happy. But so much undue stress comes from taking on these tasks when happiness is an inside job, inside that person, not you projecting to them. So me spending all this time trying to figure out all these little things I could put together, or really big things that would help my husband be happy, or to change his mindset, or whatever I felt like I needed to do at that time, it might help for a moment temporarily, but it's not really fixing what's going on like inside his heart and his mind. I'm just trying to project that happiness into him when really it needs to happen inside of him on his own. And if he wants to ask me to assist, of course, but again, you got to get out of the driver's seat and just be on the assist. Know that toxic people in your life will lead you to believe that it's not them, but it's you that is responsible for how they are treating you. I literally had to write that down on my notes because I was like, I'm going to butcher this, and I think I did. But they want you to think that it's not them at all causing any sort of unhappiness or undue stress, They want you to think, or they want you to think that it's all you. Everything that's going wrong is all about you and not about what they're putting you through. And then, like if you are trying to be out there, trying to help them get through their emotions, get through their problems, get through, make them happy and all this stuff. And they're like, no, it's not because of me. Like they'll lead you to believe like, oh, wow, well, if you tried harder, you could make me happy. Or if you tried harder, you could solve the problems that are going on in my life, when really it's them. It's them. Just try to think about that. I know I made that sound a little jumbled, but it's them. It's the toxic people. It's their fault happiness is an inside job, okay? So no matter what the situation is, they have to take care of it on their own, maybe with your assist, but on their own, because you can't just fix them. That's just it's only a temporary facade if you really think that you can fix someone, or they think you can fix them, because it's not a lasting thing, especially what happens if you just leave one day, or they leave? Then they'll realize that it was all a facade, it was all pretend, it wasn't you at all. It was you, but it wasn't them. Does that make sense? Okay. Just know, it's an inside job. They might try to think that you're not trying hard enough to make them happy, when really you're doing what you can, but it's not the solution. It's not your job to fix others. It won't be easy to let this habit go, believe me. Oh my goodness. Especially if you're anything like me and desperately want to do every little thing for people, which is no longer a problem, thank goodness. But it's necessary for your own personal growth. It's necessary for your own personal growth to let this go. Let the obsession go. Let the habit go. You can't fix others. Like I just said, you can fix them to a point, but it all ends up being a facade if they're not willing to put any of the work into it or do their own due diligence to actually do crap to make a difference and change their lives. It's not your job to fix others. And maybe you don't want to hear this right now, or maybe you know it's true, but you can still continue doing it. But it is your job to know that you got to let go, back away, and know that they got to do their thing to become better, and then maybe you can rejoin them in their lives if that's the situation that you're in. But just know, it's not you. It's not your problem. It's not your responsibility. And if you want to continue to grow and have your own self-development, you need to let that unhealthy habit go. You box yourself in by focusing on other people's lives and prevent yourself from growing and becoming your best self. It's so true. It's so true. You will not become your best self, and you will not grow and extend yourself to becoming that best person that you could if you're always so focused on what other people need in your life. You don't need to take up that responsibility unless you're raising a little baby, and yes, you have to tend to their needs. But an adult, like your partner or your best friend or your boss at work, they don't need to be coddled by you. They don't need you to be there for their every little thing that they need, unless that's your job and you're an assistant, and that's something totally different. But you know what I mean. It doesn't matter who it is. If you box yourself in by doing that and focusing on other people's needs and not your own, then you will become stagnant and not your best self, which is such a shame, because we need everyone to be their best self so that this world can just become a better place, finally, maybe, someday. I will end with this. You need to embrace the boundary and let people tend to themselves and not use you as a crutch. This has happened to me before, There are several people in my life that I would put my all into helping them be happy and to help solve their problems and to, mind their emotions. But they were just using me as a crutch because they didn't want to deal with it themselves. And I just happily came all along and was like, oh, I can do it for you. And some people just can't resist the urge to say no to that, knowing that they need to work on it themselves. But they're like, oh, okay, well, she wants to help. Let's let her help, You have to be allowed to help in the appropriate way, not just take over everything. But you need to create that boundary in your life where you know that you're helping, but not so much that you're taking over the situation. You're just helping just enough to provide a little bit of assistance and care, and that's it. Just embrace that boundary. Create it in your life. If it doesn't already exist, embrace it. And don't let people use you as a crutch, because they really need to be working on themselves. We all do. We literally all do. So, okay, that's it for today. That was a little bit of a long one. But I hope that you enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. I hope that you have a fantastic Wednesday. I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. I hope you have a good one, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.